how has the animal agriculture kind of industry responded? I think what you're shining a light on is probably something that they would want to shut down.
And how's the animal agriculture industry feel will take this film, or in general, or the other films?
This film, taking a look at religious texts and trying to shine a light on what a more accurate interpretation of those texts would be.
I feel they're so intertwined. We go in the film, especially living in the U.S., as Cam said, the Christian barbecue, and just when you go in the Midwest, the animal agriculture industry and Christianity are just, it's one, I don't know the percentage, but God, it'd probably be 95% are Christian.
As we show in the film, Tyson Foods, like the biggest, meat and animal product production company, is as Christian. They 100% profess Christian values. They have a whole priest system.
Is that coincidental, or that's designed?
I feel, especially even more so now, we have a little breathing room of like looking at everything and getting these good questions. Is that I feel it's a balance. It's so, lack of a better word, evil, or just morally challenging to raise and kill, and especially if you're in the same room or looking at the animal in the eye and slitting the animal, this beautiful being that wants to live, that you have to balance it with this very strong religious and going to church and praying all the time, because it's almost, I don't want to say guilt, but it's just, it has to be balanced in some way. So I feel that's a big part of it. Because when you go into the animal agriculture industry or what's happening, it's a rough one. I'm going to say too many bad words, but that makes sense.
Say something else, Cam.
It's I was just going to say, the ties are there. We talk about in the film, there was a guy, a really sweet pastor that was making a video a couple years back. All this was happening while we were making the movie too, which is just so wild to see the percolation of just this topic coming to a head. We can feel the energy of the time being now. And this particular pastor on the Southern Baptist Convention's ethics division of their website, which is my church background. I grew up in the Southern Baptist kind of church. A guy posted a video about animals and about some of the atrocities going on in factory farms, and relating that a little bit to like the pro-life movement and the concerns that Christians have. And they took the video down almost immediately and issued an apology letter to all of their parishioners, so to speak, and said, this was kind of not in alignment with what we were doing, yada, yada, yada. And not long after that same guy made a video about what would Jesus eat, asking some of these same questions again immediately after. You see the Animal Agriculture Alliance on their home page creating and promoting a book, What Would Jesus Really Eat? Heavy meat based, having these kind of conversations. So you see already this effort that's being made to counterbalance, and for sure in that sense. But then even beyond that, you asked, one thing I'd like to share that I wanted to share earlier is you asked 2,000 years ago, how did this cover up happen? Is there any ties that we have? There's historical documentation from 100 AD where Emperor Trajan of the Roman Empire is corresponding with the general Pliny the Elder about his division of the empire that he's overseeing. And Pliny's explaining, hey, this movement of these Christ followers are moving into town, and they're in secret and they're talking to each other. But what we've noticed is that sacrificial temples are stopping and the meat sales are down, basically. And so he's reporting to Trajan like, hey, we're snuffing them out and we're trying to stop this. And since we've been doing that, they're firing back up again. The meat sales are up again. And, so you see, and what they're doing is they're threatening their life and saying that you have to engage in this sacrificial system and renounce your faith or your ways, or you're dead, basically, back then. So,
but the priests today that are kind of, propagating this interpretation of consumption of animal foods being Christ-like, are they being incentivized by animal agriculture directly, or are they just sharing the information that they think is correct?
All my family background is Mormon, not my immediate family. I didn't grow up, and they're all in Utah, and they're pretty high up in the religion, and it's their way of life. And with this film, I've had discussions with them, and you can just tell they just don't know. There's not like they're getting paid or there's like some collusion going on, like we really know this. It's just that they don't really know, and they don't want to be confronted with this, because if they are, they'll have to look in the mirror and be like, am I really being Christ-like and a follower of Jesus if I'm eating and killing animals and putting animal flesh into my body? I think it's just a block that they do not want to face. But I don't feel that there's naturally money going in through each other, because it's kind of one, but not like, behind closed doors, I don't think.
Yeah, it's such an unconscious thing that's happening, like we said, with all the cognitive dissonance and these things, and just the lack of knowledge of the conversation because it was suppressed or lost so long ago. But to his point about it is naturally flowing in some ways, but it might not be literal deviant behavior. But for instance, the Church of England in the UK, they own a lot of land in the UK, and most of it is used for livestock farming. So you see how it's tied in together. And so money is being made through church means, property ownership, livestock production, and all these things that are intertwined. But it's just been that way for so long that it's not something that someone behind closed doors is whispering about. I think it's just the way that it is.
So animal agriculture, there's a lot to be lost if the status quo changes, essentially.
Yeah. And that's what I would emphasize is that, as I said, and as Kip saying, it's not like we're pointing a finger at religious people. If anything, they're a victim in a way, as I've felt, by an industry that's really been the culprit in all of this over time, that has utilized different tactics and advertising and communications that have demoralized our ethics to look the other way, to hide slaughterhouses behind these walls so we don't really know what's going on in there, to paint a particular picture that creates that cognitive dissonance in our mind, so we can't really hear what our heart is telling us.
We're going to go on a kind of a tangent here, but when people, if they're watching the film, they want to debunk the film, is that what's fun or interesting about this film versus the other films? Is the other ones, What the Health and Cowspiracy, they'll do all these they'll show all these other different data points and all these other studies that have been done. With this one, if you don't feel Jesus, or if you feel Jesus could kill an animal, or you feel there's a yoga way to eat animals and yogis can eat animals and Buddhists can, then what we say is, what we were going to have in the film, we just didn't put in, then can you please show us? Can you please, if you are, say, a yogi, can you raise 2 baby ducklings from birth and honor them and name them and love them, and 4 months later film them once a week, put it on YouTube, then after 4 or 5 months, then kill them when they get killed, and show how a yogi would kill them, or show how Jesus would literally kill them. And then that's where the argument kind of just falls apart, because then it's not about scripture and it's not about facts, and this is about literally, you show us how to do it. Because at the end of the day, we have asked a lot of people who are our friends, who they'll say, oh, I can do it. And then let's see, because when it comes down to it, especially when they raise that animal and they love it, just being a human being and just loving, it's going to be very difficult to show the Jesus way to take someone's life. It's just, I don't feel it's possible. We haven't found anyone who's been able to do it. And it's something that we want to challenge other people to do that. But at the end, we don't want them to kill the animal. We want them to do what Jesus or a yogi or Buddha really genuinely would do.